It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Well, Trump out there all over the place doing marathon rallies with this message.
I'd like to begin by asking you a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? With your vote on Tuesday, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country. And I will bring back the American dream. We're going to bring back the American dream.
Also, another message that he put out yesterday, specifically talking about the things that he would do.
My plan will massively cut taxes for workers and small businesses, and we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and for our seniors, no tax on Social Security benefits.
Yay! Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Gary. We know why you're voting, Gary.
Let me see if I can find that ad. Oh yeah, here. And meanwhile, this is what the Democrats are doing. This is an official campaign ad of the Harris campaign with Will Ferrell.
Right.
Here we go.
I'm just one person? No. Shut the up, Gary. Last time, only a few thousand votes kept Trump out of office. And this time, we will hold you personally responsible, Gary. Don't forget to vote, Gary.
Yeah, Gary. You and your socialism security. Go ahead with your socialist security.
Well, I guess since we're coming up to this time of the year, I can be Charlie Brown's little sister. All I want is what's coming to me. All I want is my fair share.
Yeah. Define fair, Gary. Little sister.
Who did somebody on Joe Kernan last week on CNBC? Who did he have on, the Democrat? Was it the governor? Was it the governor of New Jersey? Was it Murphy that he had on? I think so.
Yeah.
Trying to get him down. Well, you keep saying fair share. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Tell me specifically what a fair share means.
What's fair? What's
Could
fair?
answer the question.
Yeah.
Wouldn't answer it.
Yeah. And he threw some couple of numbers out there.
Yep.
What's fair?
Yep. Meanwhile, you've got Barack Obama out there.
Oh, yeah.
Ain't not a happy camper.
No.
Here we go.
Maybe you're Muslim American or Jewish American, and you are heartbroken and furious about the ongoing bloodshed in the Middle East and worried about the rise of anti-Semitism. Why would you place your faith in somebody who instituted a so-called Muslim ban?
Now, number one, it was not a Muslim ban. And where did the countries come from to ban?
The list, you mean? That came from the Obama administration.
Yes, the list came from the Obama
based
administration.
on their precedent.
Right.
Their list, as they described those countries, those were the countries that had the most terrorists coming from them.
Who sat down for pleasantries with Holocaust deniers? Who said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally?
You know, there really isn't a lot of reaction from the crowd, is there?
No, that was a very low reaction. I didn't hear that last time we played.
They know it's false.
Yeah, they know it is. There was only a few people in the audience going, oh,
yeah,
and everybody else is going.
Yeah,
I think we've already squashed that falsehood, that lie you're telling. But this is what they have to do. They don't have any other game. Where's the Kamala Harris is going to do this for you? Kamala Harris is going to do this for you. Kamala Harris is going to do this for you. They don't have it. Create the bad guy in Donald Trump. They're trying that all over again. I think they're trying it because I think they know full well that the toxicity has diminished greatly on Donald Trump, and they're furious about that.
Well, I mean, and that's why I think you saw such a quick reaction to completely distort and lie about what Trump said about Cheney.
Yeah.
About Liz Cheney.
Right.
And how that just blew up and they all went crazy. Then they had to start backtracking on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the one I remember is Jonah Goldberg. Well, yeah, okay, I jumped on it. Well, you shouldn't jump on things. Why did you jump on it?
The left can't help themselves. Why would you, before you even knew?
I told you that one of the things that I had to do yesterday when I was going through social media and looking at a bunch of different videos and audio cuts, I had to go through like 4 or 5 to make sure they weren't AI.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to promote something that was, I was like, is this, oh, they can't be this crazy. No, they can't be, it's like, yeah, they were.
Yeah. They are.
It was. No, and none of it was AI. But I had to go and check because, I mean, Jonah Goldberg, remember, he used to be a Republican. He's a never Trumper. He just went on. He went crazy on it, then had to backtrack completely. Well, why don't you check beforehand? Why don't you actually check the quote before you comment on it?
Right. In fact, wouldn't you want to do that so that you can actually bring something else to it and add to it so that you're not jumping on the, yeah, he said that bandwagon?
No.
I mean, you want to back it up. You want to know it's true. And then you come back and go, hey, listen, the reason they're saying this, here's the quote, actual quote from Trump. He actually said it. I wondered. I had to look it up. I had to find it myself. And it's true. He said it. But they don't do that. They jump on it and get burned.
With almost a manic, irrational intensity.
Yeah.
With that, I was thinking, how do I describe it? That would be how you describe it. Like, somebody said Trump said this, we got to get right now.
Yeah. No, they have to jump on it.
Raw rage and emotion based on nothing. You know, you and I.
Well, it's funny that you said that. Something related to that, and we played it before the top of the hour, that Harris is running 2 very different ads, 2 very different positions on the Middle East thing. She's running a pro-Hamas ad to a certain audience and a pro-Israel ad to another audience.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Mitchell yesterday said, he posted that and said, oh, come on, this can't be true, is it? Is it true?
I know.
You know, he wasn't just jumping on it. He was like, really? Because it sounds like it was, you know, one of those things that, all right, is it true? And, you know, and I think a few people were like, and this is the thing that actually, you know, makes sense when something like that comes out. You say, wait a minute. Okay, if this is true, if this is accurate, you and I are very clear about certain things when we see people that we or people that we agree with.
The peanut story.
Yeah.
I said, there's something there. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and then the word got out yesterday about Biden, and Biden saying he thinks that Republicans and independents are ignoring the polls and the pollsters. They're not answering the phone when they call, and therefore the polls are very light for Donald Trump, and it's not accurate. He doesn't believe the Iowa numbers. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know if that's true or not when somebody posts it. I don't know if it's true when people who claim to be journalists, when the activist media post it with a quote, you know, and they say, one source says, quote, it doesn't have any more water there, but you and I have always been careful not to jump on anything. We'll talk about it and say, this is what this person is saying.
Right.
If it's true, if it's even fairly accurate, then that, this is what we think about it. I look at the breakdown on the demographics in polls and say, wow, my gosh, we went over the national poll. I think it's the final national poll from Rasmussen Reports, and the staggering number of minorities that are supporting. These are huge numbers for a Republican to get if they turn out anywhere close to what the poll shows. And again, it's a big if. But you look at that, and it's a huge sampling over a pretty long period of time, a few weeks in October, over 12,500 likely voters. And so we look at those things, but we still don't put the absolute in and jump on it and go, oh, my gosh, this is going to happen. Or look at this. And when you jump on something,
you saw
you're going to risk getting burned.
You saw the manic, irrational intensity over the Seltzer poll for Iowa.
Yeah.
That was, that came out a half hour after the Emerson poll said Trump's up by 10. That wasn't the story. It was any poll anywhere that said she's up by 3 in Iowa.
Right.
Now, you had mentioned, I didn't know this. You had mentioned to me, I didn't know she did the poll that showed Trump was up 18.
Yeah, that was her. Yeah.
That was her that did the poll a couple of months ago showing that Trump was up 18.
Yeah.
You and I did not believe, we called it an outlier.
Yeah.
The 3. We also, if anybody remembers, we also said we don't necessarily buy the 18-point Trump lead in Iowa. We also didn't buy that.
Right.
And so we're looking at what we view as credible or not. We have no interest on this show and never will. We have no interest in discussing stuff that isn't true. We have no interest in doing it.
Right.
I'm not going to waste my time doing it. And I will say, as you said, there'll be individuals that, when I saw this yesterday and I'm like, I'll start reading it. And it's like, my sources tell me that inside the Democratic Party right now, they're panicking because of Pennsylvania. They know they're going to lose. Did you see the one that was out there that Kamala Harris has already been talking to the head people of the Democratic Party in the campaign, and they're warning her to get ready for the loss? And I'm reading and go, wow, is this okay? Where are the sources from? Mm-hmm. And it's just some individual with no source, that said source, but you have no idea who the sources are. You have no idea who the individual is. Right. And it's like, okay, they got me. They burned me on that one.
Yeah, and I can't put anything ever put anything into that. There always has to be an asterisk with that because you risk getting burned. By the way, I would expect that from our audience if we had a source. We've been accused of having insiders for a long time. That's not the case, as far as you know. But if it were, and somebody told me something, actually, I do have people that have worked in campaigns before, not at the top level, but on the state level. But I don't, I would also practice the same and say, well, this person told me this, that I know told me this. And if that's accurate and true, then, I think when the 18 plus poll came out in Iowa earlier this year, we said, look, cut that into a third even. If you cut that into a third, 6 points would be huge. It'd be a pretty strong lead, in Iowa. And so, but it was clearly, we believed, an outlier. And we don't know how you get to 18 points. And I have to wonder if Seltzer was getting, this is what I wonder. Are these liberal pollsters, these liberal media group pollsters, are they getting it handed to them by the hardcore liberal left because they keep promoting these polls that show the momentum was going his way? And that's why you saw this turn this weekend. They were backing off. And you even had Nate Silver on Friday was saying these pollsters need to quit putting their finger on the scale. And they're doing this. They're recycling old data or something, and they're putting it here, and they're weighting improperly, and because they're saying it's neck and neck. And by the end of the weekend, he was saying it's neck and neck.
one of the polls I saw yesterday that they were quoting, look at this lead by Harris here, she's rebounding, was from like October 18th to the 20th.
Yes.
Well, that's completely useless.
You're recycling old data.
They're recycling old data to make the point
and
that
throwing
she's
it current.
Right.
You can't do that.
I know.
It doesn't apply because things happen. Things happen every single day. This is why a lot of people refuse to do any early voting because they want to know, all right, what's the very latest information I have on my candidate or both candidates before I go to vote on them.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
The U.S. Capitol Christmas tree, a 74-foot Alaskan Sitka spruce, soon begins its travels across the continental United States after arriving in Seattle by barge. There will be stops for up-close viewing of the tree as it makes its cross-country trek. A schedule of stops and days available at www.uscapitolchristmastree.com. Brandon Rail of the U.S. Forest Service says once the tree arrives in the nation's capital November 22nd, quick work is done by the Capitol grounds crews to decorate it in time for the lighting ceremony. One tradition continuing with this year's tree.
The state comes together to provide nearly 6,000 ornaments that decorate the Capitol Christmas tree and an additional 4,000 that decorate other trees at the Capitol.
What Rail calls no small feat, considering Alaska's small population and big size, creating logistical challenges in gathering the ornaments. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here, as always. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, we got some great audio coming up. And
Yeah.
I'm assuming you want to hear the Gary ad again, right?
Yeah, I do, Gary.
Does that mean I'm a threat, but you're not?
I'm clearly not a threat.
Oh, and when
Ask
Trump,
anybody who knows me.
when Trump was talking about the no taxes for Social Security,
Yeah.
I'm all aboard for that one. Let's start that next October 1st.
Listen, I'm evolving on that one slowly. I'm guessing over the next 11 years-ish, I will be fully on board with no tax.
Well, since I'll be collecting my first check around October 1st of next year. No. I have no plans on retiring. It was just it's time to take. I have no choice. I have to take Social Security. It's the. Well, I guess I could refuse, but they don't give me any more.
So, I guess if you don't file for it, it never happens, right? It doesn't because it doesn't.
Yeah, you got to file for it. Yeah, you got to file. Yeah,
so
you have to file for it.
Because I'm thinking of people who are like billionaires. You know, I mean, that would mean Warren Buffett was hit 70 23 years ago, 24 years ago. Did he ever file for it? I don't know if he's ever said that. I don't know if anybody's ever asked him.
All I want is what's coming to me. All I want is my fair share.
All right there, Lucy.
No, Charlie Brown's sister.
Oh, it wasn't Lucy that said that?
No, it wasn't Lucy.
No, who's that? What's her name?
No, that Pigpen's the guy.
Is it Patty?
No, there was Peppermint Patty.
Yeah.
She liked Chuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of Charlie Brown's sister, but it was Charlie Brown's sister.
All right. Okay. Well, you'll get your fair share before the money runs out.
Yeah, I want it before it runs out.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. This I thought was interesting over the weekend, and this was on MSNBC. That's point number one. This was on MSNBC, where they're probably trying to do everything to motivate their audience, right?
Yep.
It's Jen Psaki, and she's on with Jim Messina, who was the Obama campaign manager back in 2008. And here's what he had to say about where he believes the election is going.
Okay, what's their biggest concern right now if you're the Harris team?
Well, look, I think it's a couple things. The early vote numbers are a little scary, and you and I have been texting back and forth. Republicans didn't do what they did last time. Last time Trump said don't early vote, and so they didn't. Republicans do have an advantage in early vote numbers. When the early vote come in, it's going to look a little bit different than 2020, and that's scary.
Wow.
No?
Fascinating.
Yeah. Look, I think right now, again, you're seeing numbers that show, I guess what I'm looking at isn't necessarily any one set of numbers. It's the collective of the data that shows a number of things, and really everything's still pointing to momentum until you got to this weekend. And it just became almost like a weird campaign ad for Kamala Harris. But then you go back and you look at the breakdown of the polls, and then you look at the outliers, some of those outliers that are coming out. Even, who was it? Cohn, the pollster for New York Times. He's the head of polling there at New York Times. I mean, he was essentially saying, he didn't come out and say, hey, Trump's going to win. But they didn't seem to be, and they put out their final on the national yesterday. But again, there wasn't, what I'm not hearing from the leftist media pollsters is what you have heard in the past. Oh, she's got the momentum. This is hers to lose. And it's on the issues. I do believe it is Trump's to lose. On the data, we get into different territory, but I'd be really surprised that Rasmussen reports is, so off base. They are, which they haven't been historically, and Atlas Intel is so off base, which they haven't been, and that Quinnipiac and New York Times are more on target.
Well, when you have when you look at it overall, because it's in the Wall Street Journal, well, in the last couple of days, she's made some movement. Where?
Right.
Are you looking at the Seltzer poll? Because of where they were with Trump at plus 18, and now she's up by 3. I don't buy that. Something's wrong there.
No.
Iowa did not change. 20% of the vote did not change. You did not have a 21-point swing.
A 21-point swing did not happen.
That didn't happen. And so you look at something like that they all jumped on. But when you look at it overall, when you look at the most accurate pollsters, when you look at Rasmussen, when you look at Atlas Intel, I think they're both Trump, the popular vote, by 3 is what they have.
Yeah.
And you had Atlas Intel, every battleground state, and this was yesterday, I think, that their last poll came out. Every single battleground state, Trump wins.
Yeah.
And what was it, Arizona? Let me see if I can find that again, because that was it was really fascinating looking at it here. Okay, I lost it. Searching for something else, but I want to get, because Arizona, I think it was, what was it, like 4.2?
Yeah.
Okay, that's Rasmussen there. Okay, I don't have it here at the moment. But yeah, when you look at it, every single battleground state, every single one.
Yeah.
And you look at the same thing for Rasmussen. Let me go through here. Tip poll, national. The last 4 polls, all right, this is popular vote. NBC, 49-49. Tip,
Yeah.
Trump, 49-48. Emerson, 49-49. New York Post, 49-49. Those are the last 4 polls that were taken. Insider Advantage, also one of the top pollsters on a state level. Trafalgar, same thing. Pennsylvania, both have Trump winning by 1. Michigan, Trafalgar, again, one of the most accurate polls of 2020. Trump up by 1. Michigan Insider Advantage, one of the top polls, a tie. So when you look at Rasmussen, when you look at Trafalgar, when you look at Atlas Intel, when you look at Inside Advantage, you don't see this movement. You don't see the movement from the most accurate polling.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Right. Yeah.
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 You just don't.
No, you don't
see it.
And I think that was the point, at least it was with Nate Silver on Friday when he was saying, look, the pollsters, when they come in and everything, this momentum is going his way, and all of a sudden, right up at the very end, they're saying, look, it's really too close, and everything's neck and neck in every state across the board. I think that's the problem that a lot of anybody who's watching these polls and it what it does is then it reeks of, again, something wrong, what Nate Silver was saying on Friday, putting your finger on the scale and using data, recycling old data. Look, sorry, you can't go back to mid-October. That was so mid-October ago. Because in the polling world, it does matter day to day. And the closer you get, things change.
I will say that poll that I saw is not in the Real Clear Politics polls that they use.
Right.
Yeah,
I saw a couple yesterday that I was looking for that aren't in the RCP.
Yeah. Now let's go to the Trump campaign now. This is a Trump political director here, James Blair, how he views it.
I want to read this from Nate Cohn. This is on the New York Times polling that I just showed our viewers here. Across these final polls, white Democrats were 16% likelier to respond than white Republicans. That's a larger disparity than our earlier polls this year, and it's not much better than our final polls in 2020, even with the pandemic over. It raises the possibility that the polls could underestimate Mr. Trump yet again. We do a lot to account for this, but in the end, there are no guarantees. How do you read that?
I think it's covering. I think that they know where things stand. Look, in all of those polls, in all the battleground states, I heard Carl before this talking about the recalled vote, they've set the electorate to the left of 2020, which doesn't comport with what we know, which is that all of these electorates have moved to the right, just on a registration-eligible electorate basis itself. And obviously, we see that starting to manifest in the early voting patterns. So I think that they're sort of putting some cover out there because they're going to underrepresent President Trump's support. What they essentially are saying there is, we got too many Democrats in the survey. We don't have enough Republicans. We know that, but we're going to publish these numbers on the eve of the election anyway.
He's now that's Trump political director. That's the same thing that Mark Mitchell is saying. In some way, that's the question that Mark Halperin is making.
Right.
And so here we go.
Well, and again, what I don't hear this. You see this layout of neck and neck. Okay, it's neck and neck. It's going to be a heated battle going into tomorrow, but you don't see. All right, this is where her momentum is. This is where it's. Nate Cohn is the top pollster with the New York Times. And he was all over the place yesterday and posting and responding to his own post on X of their final that they put out. Well, what was the one that caught my eye? when he talks about early turnout rather for voting, early voting turnout. Early voting has gone better for the GOP than last time, but it's still a Democrat-leaning group. This introduces a risk. What if the turnout is going to be a bit better for the GOP, but all early voting did was cement turnout among the Dems' leaning group to this point? In other words, what if basically what I take from that is what if the Democrats have already done all of their showing up and the GOP early turnout, even though they did better, he points out, the GOP has done better in early voting this round than they have in the past. And what if that momentum for the Democrats was all spent during early voting and doesn't happen in the next couple of days? Doesn't happen on Election Day. The theory that I have on that, and I don't know, again, it's just, or maybe it's not even a theory, it's a question, is that voter turnout on Election Day. Does it lean typically GOP?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what I thought. And or I guess my question would be this time around, do they still believe it's going to lean GOP? Or is there any reason to believe it won't lean GOP? Is anybody making the case that Nate Cohn made, or the possibility that he laid out, that the Democrats may have kind of spent their energy in early voting and they're not going to have the same turnout on Election Day?
They may not
is
have said
anyone making that in the same way with the GOP?
Not. Well, I think they're following the normal cycle. Even though you had more GOP voters go out, registration has increased drastically over the last 4 years for Republicans. But normally you have many more Democrats vote early voting than Republicans. In fact, as I said, in 2020, Trump told people don't go out and early vote.
Right.
If you remember that. And so, so that's going to be increased. I guess the point, and so the expectation is that it will be much greater for Republicans also on Election Day, but how much greater? And will those new voters who were Democrat or independent, or those who didn't vote, will they actually vote?
Well, because
will they go to the polls?
That kind of blows and this is that's one of the other points that Nate Cohn from the New York Times made in his thread, and that is the disparity between likely voter and registered voters. Well, it could blow it out of the water if a lot of newly registered voters that since 2020 have registered and they're going to show up and they're not likely voters. You didn't poll them the same way, because the GOP, as he points out, performed very well with registered voters. But if that's the case and the GOP leads the pack and they're going to be active, then that could be that silent majority effect, or at least to the point of they weren't pollable, because you don't put them in the likely voter category. You put them as registered voters. Again, if that leans GOP, of course, that favors Trump.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
With Will Ferrell.
All right.
Here we go. All right.
I'm just one person? No. Shut the up, Gary. Last time, only a few thousand votes kept Trump out of office. And this time, we will hold you personally responsible, Gary. Don't forget to vote, Gary.
Yeah, Gary.
I'm not. People may be saying, come on. No, seriously. That's one of their final ads with Will Ferrell. That's not AI. That's really an ad. I know people are going, no way, that can't be.
Yeah, it is, Gary. Now, wouldn't it be weird if I got on today and AI's gotten that good and targeting the algorithm for targeted ads, I see it and Will Ferrell saying, Eric. So everybody who watches it, they see their name come up on it. That would be wild.
Yeah, we don't know who Gary is, by the way.
I don't know
no
what
idea.
the context is.
Yeah, we don't know whether Gary is the Karen word for men. From the left.
Probably is. It sounds very Karenish. Yeah.
What?
At least it's what the production staff was telling me. Yeah. Sounds very Karenish. Yeah, they say that all the time.
I'm hurt.
Yeah.
I'm really hurt.
Yeah, you should be, Gary.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.